1, 2, 1, 2. What up, people? Hotep Jesus. We back.
That Hotep Jesus dude. That Hotep Jesus dude.
Hotep to the fam. Oh man, it's been a while since I've done one of these. Cyber Cop said, happy to see this topic being discussed. Hey, thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Shout out Dr. Thunder. Dr. Thunder in the building. What up, Dr. Thunder? Make sure y'all go check out his YouTube channel. Very talented individual. I think he plays like 485 instruments or something like that. Very, very talented individual. Yeah, I've been working on my new book. Been working on metavorted.com. Been working on Coinbits. Been working on the Wazoo AI company. So I haven't had a chance to stream. Plus I spent some time with the fam, give the fam some of my personal time. So I haven't done a stream in a few days. So sorry for the delay, folks. But we're here. And so where did this conversation stem from? This conversation of labels, right? So hold on a second. Let me just move my screens around and we're going to get into this conversation. Labels. Because I've had a bit of a fascination with labels for a good portion of my life. And so where'd this stem from? Where'd this conversation stem from? So if anybody knows, there's an intellectual in VC by the name of Naval Ravikant. He has David Prem said, waiting for Hotep to do a Jersey conference. Please make it happen. Look out for Hotep Nation Weekend. We are planning that, and that should be coming out. We should make an announcement within the next 30 days or so. So look out for that. That's going to be super dope. So where was I? So Naval, intellectual, VC, he's in the tech world, et cetera, investor, very intelligent individual. If you ever get a chance and you haven't already, I would suggest watching his interview with Joe Rogan. But he's somebody I consider to be on the side of the good guys. You know, he sees where the world is going with the New World Order and all that type of stuff. And he's far from a conspiracy theorist. He's a conspiracy realist. But he just has some very interesting thoughts. And so I was listening to, he had a talk on Twitter and one of his Twitter spaces, I want to say about a week ago. And he was talking about labels and how he is running away from labels, doesn't want to deal with labels. And I thought to myself, I totally get that. There was a time in my life where I said the same thing. I'm like, I hate these labels. People always want to label me and they want me to have a label and so on and so forth. And, for example, like one label I ran from for a really long time was leader, right? People would say, Hotep Jesus, you're a leader. And for a really long time, I just ran away from it because I didn't want people to be dependent upon me. I didn't want people to build up a dependency on me. I wanted people to be independent. I want you to be your own person. Like, why do you need a leader? Lead yourself. This is the things I used to say. Lead yourself. I don't want to be your leader. So I ran from that title for a really long time until I witnessed something. I experienced something. And basically what happened was I noticed that people of a younger age group, young men in their 20s, were imitating me. And I remember being younger and being impressionable and imitating some of my idols and taking on some of their traits. But when I noticed it, I noticed that they were imitating all aspects of me, but even the bad, right? Like I used to joke a lot, used to play around a lot, make a lot of off-color jokes, et cetera, and troll a lot. But what they grabbed onto was all of the troll and none of the intellectual. So I was creating like little clone trolls of myself. And I said, when I saw it happening and I saw people, young men, impressionable, Hotep in their name, Hotep in their bio, mimicking me and trolling, and sometimes doing a really terrible job of it, just very just tasteless. Because, when I troll, it's very calculated. And when they were trolling, it wasn't calculated at all. They just sort of spray and pray, right? So that's when I noticed. I said, oh, wow. Oh, that's why I have to be a leader, because you don't get to choose when you're a leader. That's just not something you get to choose. Either it's blessed upon you or it's not. Okay. And heavy is the head that wears the crown. It was something that became a responsibility of mine. And so when I saw those young men imitating me, I said, okay, I have to change the way I act in the world, because if I'm going to create clones of me, little clones of me, then I need to create great clones of me. Individuals giving, following the 80-20 rule. I said, look, put the best me forward. So when they imitate, they'll imitate intellectual Hotep Jesus and not troll Hotep Jesus. So that was the leader. That was the leader label that was placed upon me, so on and so forth, right? So Naval, right? So Naval said he wanted to get rid of labels. He was running from them, so on and so forth. And that was something I could relate to, because for a long time I ran away from a lot of different labels. People labeled me. I remember at one point I was labeled an extremist. I'm just like, I'm an extremist. So in marketing, we take feedback seriously, and we adjust based upon feedback. So when people are calling me an extremist, I'm like, all right, maybe I know I'm not an extremist, but maybe I need to dial it back so I don't appear to be an extremist, right? And be a little bit more tactful and sharp with some things that I do, right? Aquapana water. This is beautiful Italian water. I think from the Tuscan mountains or something like that. So where was I? Okay. So yeah, so they called me an extremist. And then at some point, they called me Hotep. Hotep was a label that was thrown upon me. I didn't ask to be called Hotep. I was called Hotep. And I was called it so much that I was like, all right, fine. That's what I am. I'm Hotep. Fine. If that's what you guys call it, then I must be Hotep. And then one day some individuals said, because I was tweeting very much from my higher self, from my higher consciousness at some point in my Twitter career. I was tweeting from my high consciousness. And this individual says to me, what do you think you are, some sort of Hotep Jesus? And when I saw it on my screen, it just looked so amazing. And I said, wow, yeah, I am Hotep Jesus. And that's how I got the name Hotep Jesus. So Hotep was a label that was thrown on me. Leader is a label that was thrown on me. Then later on, I had this label conservative thrown on me. They were saying, you're a black conservative. You're a black conservative. And I know what that means as a stereotype, because when we talk about labels, we got to talk about stereotypes, because I believe that's what Naval might be running from, is the stereotypes associated with labels. And also the fact that, he's a polymath, and just like myself, we do many things. There's not just one label that can really classify who or what I am. You just can't do that. So I understood, why he was running from these labels, right? So then black conservative is tossed upon me. And I know the stereotypes that come along with that. So I remember one time, I might have been in an interview or somewhere, or it happened so many times. It happened in multiple places, right? So somebody says, you're a black conservative, and I correct them. I say, no, I'm Hotep. You're a black conservative. No, I'm Hotep. You're a black conservative. No, I'm Hotep. Because I understand the stereotypes that come along with the black conservative. Then there are moments where I just go along with it, right? Because it's just no point. And sometimes there's just no point in correcting people. You kind of just want to get to the point of whatever it is they're trying to say. So you're like, all right, if this is the label that you see me under, then let's just continue the conversation, and I'll unwind that by how I respond to you and how we have the conversation. So they tossed the label black conservative on me. And I would be conservative in the adjective sense of the form. There are conservative ways about me. However, as a noun, I am not a black conservative. If we want to talk about political affiliation, I'm probably more libertarian. I'm definitely more centered because there's some things I agree with the left and there's some things I agree with the right. And I think they both make some valid points. I think the left is just wrong way more than the right. And I think the left is so far left that it ain't even left. They're just like, I don't know where they are right now. They're in Narnia somewhere. Okay. That might even be a diss for Narnia. So yeah, so we have these labels, right? We have these labels. And so we were talking about this on the show the other day with Uncle Hotep. He said the word coon. Coon is a label thrown around in the black community. And when that label is placed upon you, nobody want to touch you. It means you're a sellout. And your black card is revoked, and you're not invited to cookout, and you're not really black, right? So coon. So let's dive into that, right? So it's a and let me write this point down. Before I forget the point. So damn, now I forgot the point I was just about to make. Libertarians. Oh, cool. Okay. So you'll have a wide range of individuals could fall under the title of coon, especially if we allow Twitter blacks to make this decision for you. Okay. Now, a Twitter black might call Candace Owens a coon. Okay. They might call Kanye West a coon because he put on the MAGA hat. Okay. Clarence Thomas, prayers go out to Justice Clarence Thomas, might be labeled a coon. Who else? Oh, I think that's a good enough range right there, right? So Kanye is probably in the middle. Candace Owens would be, far right, and Clarence Thomas is over here somewhere else, right? So Candace, I would say, deserves the title more than any of the names I've just mentioned, only because she never really has any type of like good takes when it comes to the black community. It's always like super far right, and it's always like, it basically gives off the air of like, fuck black people. Like, I don't care about your problems. Fuck y'all, right? The most pro-black thing she ever did was compliment the Super Bowl halftime show, right? So I wouldn't call her a coon. I might joke around and call her a coon sometimes. I don't mean it seriously. She's not, she in the grand scheme of things, she's not important to me. But she does have a lot of power, right? She has enough power to reach people, right? She has a huge reach. And I think harnessed properly, she could make good change in this world. I think that the reason why I say she doesn't have power is because she doesn't use it, right? Power means diverging from the norm and creating like a new thing, right? Like you're galvanizing a new path. right? You're creating a new way forward. And really, she just gives you, basic conservative takes. There's nothing like really new about what she brings. The only thing new about her is the fact that she's a black conservative, right? So they're rare, right? Black conservatives just happen to be rare. So when white conservatives see black conservatives, they go, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Somebody who fucking gets it. And yeah, she does get it in many different ways. But when it comes to how the right operates and how Republicans operate, sometimes and to her point, like if she did try to, forge a new path, she probably wouldn't be as popular as she is. I'll just be honest with you. It's just, if you can just grift your political aisle, you go straight to the top, right? And that's basically just, and there's books on this, like there's sales copies books, and it basically says if you confirm people's biases, you can be as famous as you want to be, right? And ally their fears, take away their fears, and just affirm their biases. So that's what she does. She has her base and she affirms the biases of her base, and it does really well for her. But if she were to challenge her base, that would be her exercising some sort of power, right? And it's just rare that she challenges her base, the Republicans, et cetera, right? Just rare. Okay, so that's candid. Then you got Kanye, right? And Kanye might be a coon. And this is where we talk about the label to discredit people, right? So Clarence Thomas and Kanye West will be labeled a coon. And that's the problem with some of these labels. Labels are often used to discredit people. So for example, white supremacists, white nationalists, racists, these terms no longer hold any meaning, right? So we're talking about labels. Well, labels have to have some sort of meaning behind them. They have to hold weight. And we're going to talk about gender in a moment and the swimmer, and we're going to talk about that too. But so when we say, this person is a white supremacist or white nationalist, I get a certain impression in my mind of what that could be, right? Some skinhead Nazi, right? And they do exist, right? Whatever. They mostly exist in Ukraine. But what happens is when people, here's another label, fascist. Fascist is another one. When people toss these things around loosely, they lose meaning. They just do. Fascist no longer holds any meaning. White supremacist no longer holds any meaning. White nationalists no longer. Racist. In order to be considered racist, all you have to do is put on a MAGA hat. All you have to do is say, hey, I voted for Trump. And there's a certain segment of people that will say you're a racist. And if you're black, they'll call you a coon. But when you look at the facts and you look at the gas prices, who's the real coon? And who's the real racist and who's the real white supremacist? Because a lot of people are suffering right now, right? So when Naval talks about labels, right? The problem with labels is everyone has an opinion, and then everybody with an opinion uses labels. They use labels wrong, and they place them on the wrong people. And because they do that, these labels lose meaning. So for example, you call somebody a liberal, and it's just like, well, do you mean by liberal, do you mean a communist, a socialist, a progressive, a classical liberal, modern liberal, a neoliberal? You can get really specific. But nowadays, we sort of just call everybody who acts like a little weirdo a liberal, right? And I'm guilty of it too. I just look at this liberal, right? But technically, they're not liberal. And so let's go ahead and look up the definition of liberal, right? Because I looked this up in the past, and I'm like, yeah, these people are not liberal. Okay, so let's go by wiki, whatever. It says liberalism is a political and moral philosophy based on the rights of the individual, liberty, consent of the governed, and equality before the law. Technically, many of us would be considered liberal, right? But the left, for example, it says here, and let me share my screen. I think that's the most professional way to do this. Hold on one second. I'll get this on your screen just now. Cool. So you'll see here, it says, well, first of all, it says moral philosophy, right? The left has lost all types of morals. But then it says rights of the individual, liberty, consent of the governed. Well, the people that we would call liberals today, when we went through the virus events of the past 2 years, these people literally campaigned against the rights of the individual. They said, you got to take your vacation. You got to take your medicine. You got to take your medication. We're going to jab you up. They were completely against the rights of individuals, liberty, and consent of the governed. Many people were forced. Even if you go look at New York, all of the government employees in New York, many of them got fired. But they had no consent, no ability to consent. They were forced, practically. It was either that or just be broke and be destitute and back on the poverty line. So did you really have a choice? Right? I put a gun to your head. Do you have a choice? You really don't. So yeah, like the rights of the individual. So if we go by what the definition of liberal is, it means to affirm the rights of the individual. So today, the right would be liberal. And the left, I don't even know, the left would be tyrannical. The left would be despotic. That's where we are today. Okay. So Overton window has moved. Things have shifted. The left is now the right, and the right is now the left. And here we are. The term liberal actually doesn't mean anything. You can't even call these people liberal. What you can do is you can call them fascists, because they definitely want to force and coerce you into whatever agenda it is that they're pushing. And they do this, a lot of this through bullying, right? We saw that with Maxine Waters, straight bullying. If you see these people on the street, run up on them, right? It's bullying tactics. This is classical fascism. This is classical Bolshevik tactics, right? But the people we might call liberals, the left, the Antifa types, they run around and they call people who are Republican, people who are conservative, people who voted for Trump, they'll call them fascists. And that is a tactic, obviously, we know. Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radical. We know the tactics they use, and basically label you something that has a stench so nobody goes near you, right? So that's that, right? So that's where we are when it comes to political labels. Libertarian, I mean, even some segment of the libertarian community are like liberals, right? Or I should say leftists. They're like socialists and progressives. They're not, again, to correct myself, they're not liberals. Right, exactly. Joshua says Antifa is called the thing they are not. Right. So Antifa runs around talking about they're anti-fascists, but really they are the fascists. Hey, good catch there, Josh. Good cat. Yes, the same thing happening in Canada. Trudeau acting like a true fascist. Australia, fascism. And the left has been in alignment with both of these tyrannical governments. They have been in alignment with the tyrannical government of Canada and Australia. Okay. Then we talk about Ukraine. The left has pushed a campaign to say we want to eradicate white supremacy. We want to eradicate the Nazi presence in America. And now they want to completely deny that there is a Nazi presence in Ukraine. So let's take a look at that. I have several stories here. NBC News. I'm gonna pull up a bunch of sources here. Here's another one. All right, let's pull up these, and then I'll do NBC News last because they're the ones that the left might. So right here it says Congress has removed a ban on funding neo-Nazis from its year-end spending bill. And you see the date on this is 2016. So it says under pressure from the Pentagon, Congress has stripped the spending bill of an amendment that prevented funds from falling into the hands of Ukrainian neo-fascist groups. Okay. So right here it says, yet some have expressed concern that some of this aid has made its way into the hands of neo-Nazi groups, such as the Azov Battalion. Right? It says here, and so in July of last year, Congressman John Conyers of Michigan and Ted Yoho of Florida drew up an amendment to the House Defense Appropriations Bill, H.R. 2685, that limits arms, training, and other assistance to neo-Nazi Ukrainian military, the Azov Battalion. It passed by unanimous vote in the House. And yet, by the time November came around and the conference debate over the year-end appropriations bill was underway, the Conyers-Yoho measure appeared to be in jeopardy, and indeed it was. An official familiar with the debate told the nation that the House Defense Appropriations Committee came under pressure from the Pentagon to remove the Conyers-Yoho amendment from the text of the bill. Considering the fact that the U.S. Army has been training Ukrainian armed forces and National Guard troops, the Conyers-Yoho amendment made a great deal of sense, blocking the avowedly neo-Nazi Azov Battalion from receiving U.S. assistance would further what President Obama often refers to as our interests and values. Okay? So, as you can see here, it was quite apparent that there was a neo-Nazi presence in Ukraine. This was published. Okay. Let's go here. I don't know this website, but here it says 2022, how Ukraine's Jewish president Zelensky made peace with neo-Nazi paramilitaries on front lines of war with Russia. Right? I'm not going to go and read this, but I'm just showing you this headline. Right? This is a more recent one. But let's come here. Let's go to this interview right here. And it says, this is NBC News, NBCnews.com. It says German TV shows Nazi symbols on helmets of Ukraine soldiers. In a ZDF report on the fragile ceasefire in eastern Ukraine, images were shown of soldiers wearing combat helmets with SS insignia and swastikas. As you can see the SS here, and you can see the swastika. Okay. This is September 9th, 2014. Okay. So NBC News has reported on the presence of neo-Nazis in Ukraine as far back as 2014 in this instance that I'm showing. Okay. So now the left likes to pretend like they're all against, completely against neo-Nazis and all this other stuff. And they like to pretend like they don't exist. Yet this stuff has already been reported on. Right? So again, this is the hypocritical, bigoted nature of the so-called left. Right? Yet they labeled Trump supporters practically neo-Nazis. Right? Practically neo-Nazis is what they labeled them. Okay? And again, to discredit the base, to discredit people. That's the problem with labels. Labels often are used to discredit people. And really what it does is it destroys the opportunity for intellectual debate and intellectual conversation and discourse. It's the main thing that they do, because when you have discourse, you tend to get to the bottom of things. When you have mature discourse, you tend to get to the bottom of things, and the truth rises to the top. And they understand. Like I saw Black Mount Hotep say earlier that some of the ADOS have some choice words for him on Twitter, but when he says, let's go to YouTube and debate live, they're nowhere to be found. Okay? Because they know that their talking points don't stand up to scrutiny. They have no legs. A lot of these things are just emotional arguments, and emotional arguments just can't compete with logical argument. So what they do is, to avoid discourse, they discredit. And then they say, because you are this label, you don't even deserve discourse, because you're an egregious neo-Nazi. You're a coon. I don't talk to coons. Or I don't talk to neo-Nazi. So it's a good way to avoid discourse. It's a good way to hamper intellectualism. Really what it does is it stunts the growth of humanity. It recedes humanity, in fact. This is the problem with labels being used as a tool to discredit. And that's why a lot of people have problems with labels. Other than the fact that people use labels and they have no idea what they mean. They call somebody one thing, and like, for example, I had an interview with Mike a couple of weeks ago. I had Mike Rashid on the channel, and he said he was talking to his secretary, and they were talking about Trump. And she said, he asked her, why don't you like Trump? And she said, because he's racist. And he was like, okay, well, give me a racist thing. And she brought up, I think, Charlottesville. So he showed her the clip, and, whatever. And he obviously says, I condemn the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists at this rally, whatever. But he said it was good people on both sides, right? So he said, give me an example of Trump being racist. And she couldn't do that. So she ended up capitulating and resorting to calling him an asshole. He's like, all right, well, call him that. Don't call him racist, because calling him racist wouldn't be accurate, because you have nothing to stand on. That statement has no leg, right? And what people might default to is the Jackson 5 or whatever it was called, Central Park 5, I think it's called. Yeah, the Central Park 5. They might default to that, and that's a whole nother conversation. A whole lot of nuance and stories, because even the black cops said those kids was criminals, and those kids were, in fact, robbing people in that park that night. But that's neither here nor there. So they'll call somebody like Trump a racist, right? Again, labels used to discredit people. Now, how about the label woman? What does it mean to be a woman? There was a gentleman, I think his last name was Walsh. Is it Matt Walsh, I believe? Went on one of these talk shows, TV shows, daytime shows, and they brought some of the pronoun people up there. And he asked the guy, what does it mean to be a woman? And there was really no consensus. They had no answer. They couldn't tell you what it means to be a woman. And again, losing sight of words having meaning. And Orwell talks about that as well. I saw somebody in the chat brought up Orwell, and absolutely, same thing. These things lose meaning. They use this also for masculinity. I saw, what did I see the other day about? It was like a masculinity forum or something like that. Where was that I see? I want to bring this up on the screen if I could find it. But they had like some masculinity forum, but it looked really sweet. Let me just tell you that. It looked really sweet. So now they're at the point where they're trying to redefine masculinity, because they don't want masculinity to be what you say it is. right? They want to redefine that and make it so that masculinity means wearing a flower in your hair, bending over for Zelensky, you know, wearing tight panties, right? This is the stuff they want you to believe that masculinity is a spectrum, right? And it has a range, all this type stuff. Jeff, if you're in the chat and you remember where that was, please post it in my DMs so I could put it up on the screen. I can't find it here. In case it's no fret if you don't know what I'm talking about or don't remember. But they were having like some sort of like forum or something like that. And everybody in the panel just looked. What is this? No, not this. This isn't it. Everybody in the panel just looked really sweet, right? And I think they had one black dude up there, and then a couple of white guys. I think the rest are white guys or something like that. So they're trying to now they're trying to redefine masculinity and what masculinity means. Okay. The new masculine, is that what it is? Let me see. Jeff's been killing it over at Motherboard too. Make sure y'all go check him out. Oh my God, it's just filth all in here. Oh my God, there's men's peens all down this. Twitter is so filthy. Oh my God, this is just disgusting. All right, I'll look for that in a little bit. So yeah, so masculinity, right? Redefining masculinity, and then now we saw with Leah, the swimmer. What does it mean to be a woman? Boosie has some choice words. Boosie basically said women have a monthly menstruation, right? And he's right. He's right. I fear that one day they're going to give men the capability, and they'll artificially bleed out of their whatever orifice they may create. I don't know, whatever. But I do believe so. Okay, so here's my theory. My theory is, obviously this has to do with population control. Okay, obviously. So who births children? Well, women do. So if you wanted to create population control, what you would do is, outside of Planned Parenthood and that whole abortion agenda, and the past 2 years with the pandemic, and we know what Bill Gates said. But outside of these things, what would you do? Well, who births children? Women do. So what you'd want to do is you want to eliminate that from the human species, replace that with something else, right? And then you start having a control over your population, right? Again, population control. So we have the new swimmer who has dominated and I believe won the NCAA Women's Swim Championship. And some people had some choice words for it. Some people were cool with it. What? All right, you'll get it together, bro. So yeah, some people agreed, and I guess the left this is just part of their agenda, right? And Uncle Hotep and I talked about it tonight on our other show. We have a Patreon exclusive show, patreon.com/Hotep's Been Told You. There might be a link in the description box, I believe. Or just type in hotepnation.com/ patreon.com/Hotep's Been Told You. And that's our secret show, Best of the Internet. And we talked about this. But it's a form of bullying, right? The left has, Uncle Hotep said, they created a campaign of anti-bullying and then turned around and became bullies, essentially. And that's what happened. Hey, yo, can you ban Natasha? Anybody talking about crypto in here, just ban them. The crypto trolls is in here. Just ban them. Like Miss Angie, ban her, please. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, so it's like a form of bullying, right? And that person too. Um but again, so labels, right? So the big problem with the labels, to sort of summarize here is one, to discredit, and one, to what's the word I'm looking for here? Um to blur. There's another word I was looking for, but I'll use the word blur. Blur the meanings of things, right? So on a negative side, and I'm going to talk about the positive side of labels after this, but the negative side of things is discredit, um, discredit, and then blur, right? So those are two things we have to worry about: um, blur and discredit. Okay. Uh, we saw with the whole swimmer situation, um, them blurring what it means to be a woman. It's going to come a point where women are going to turn on that whole thing and demand to have their likeness back. So yeah, you have to get very pedantic about it. Exactly. Um, so yeah, so women are going to turn on this at some point. I'm not exactly sure when, how, blah blah blah. It's starting to happen a little bit, but I think it's going to get even louder. Yeah. And I'm bringing a woman on my platform to have a wonderful discussion. Very beautiful black woman. Her name is Six, and I'll bring her on the platform tomorrow. Her name's Six because she's actually 6 feet tall. Um, and we might talk about this tomorrow. In fact, um, yeah. So and I've said this before. I've said this on InfoWars. It's something about like the silent majority, right? And this the silent majority through silence allows a lot of this stuff to happen. Like people have to speak up more, and people are afraid to speak. And a lot of times because you might lose your job, or you might lose a friend, or you might lose family, or whatever it is, right? You might get banned. All this kind of weird stuff. It's just a form of bullying and intimidation, right? It's very definitely like what do you call it? Um, what do you call it when the mob intimidates people and takes money from them? I can't remember. Yeah, pop it in the chat. I know you guys know. But that's really what it is. Hold on, because this is just gonna bother me until I see the word. DeSantis. DeSantis passed the anti-mob bill. I'm gonna have to look into. Extortion. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Extortion. Yes. This is a form of extortion. We are being extorted. Strong arm extortion. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. This is a form of extortion. So that's what's happening, right? We're being extorted, and basically, the payment is just living a normal life, able to have a job, able to go to school, right? And that's the form of payment. But we're being extorted by a bunch of nerdy bullies. All right, so that's the negative side. Reiterate one more time. Discredit and blur the meaning of things. Now there's a good side, right? So again, Naval says he's running from labels, da 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 da, and I'm like, well, yeah, I do remember a point in my life where I was running from labels, and now I'm running towards labels. And I think labels are good because labels help people identify things. When you go to the store, if there was a glass jar and it had piss in it, but they put the label honey on it, you'd be mad when you got home and the shit was goddamn piss, right? Or if it was beer, right? And the bottle of piss was labeled beer, you'd be pissed. Like labels are good. Like we need to use labels. We just need to use them properly. The problem is we don't use labels properly. So for example, I use a label called social scientist. This is a label I've placed upon myself. I've chosen this label to help people identify who or what I am. Does that label define all of me? No. But does it point people into a right direction? Yeah, I believe what it does is it points people to my strength. I'm good with people. I understand people. I study people. That's my strength. I'm in marketing. When you're in marketing, you're basically dealing with psychology. So I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and we're sitting in the office and we're shooting the shit. And I told him, I said, bro, I'm a psychologist. And he goes, yo, you sound stupid. I said, why do I sound stupid? He said, because a psychologist is somebody who has a degree and studies psychology. And I said to him, I don't live in that world. And this is why I agree with Naval, because Naval talks about this. And he says, there's this thing in our society where we prop up academia, or academia, however you want to pronounce it, and prop up academia as if everything needs to be approved by academia. But as we saw from the past few years, the stuff coming from academia is fake news. It's fake science. It just is, right? So, and that's the problem when we give power to academia. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead in here and I'm going to look up the definition of psychology. Right here, let's type in definition. Right here. Okay. So it says right here, Justice, it says psychologist, a person who specializes in the study of mind and behavior or in the treatment of mental, emotional, behavioral disorders. A specialist in psychology, right? Doesn't say anything about a degree here. It says nothing about having a degree. Let's go to, I like using Collins Dictionary. Let's see what Collins Dictionary says. Let's go here. Let's type in psychology. Go there. It says a psychologist, a person who studies the human mind and tries to explain why people behave the way they do. That's what I do. I study the human mind and I try to explain to people, and I try to explain why people behave the way they do. Have you ever watched Hotep's Been Told You? That's what we do. We are psychologists. That's what we do. We break down society for people. Now, let's go back to the previous link I was on, and I'll show you the difference. And you have here, and it says right here, a clinical psychologist is a licensed psychologist with an advanced degree who assesses, diagnoses, and treats mental, emotional, and behavioral issues. A specialist in clinical psychology. Okay? So I'm talking to the homie, and he's calling me stupid because I called myself a psychologist. But he's saying in order to be a psychologist, you need to have a degree. What he should, if he was being right and exact, he would have said a clinical psychologist. That's different. A clinical psychologist is someone who needs to have a degree. If you're dealing in marketing, I just put my marketing book on sale today. And extend it for a few hours too, because I never sent the email out to my email list. I want to give everybody on my email list a opportunity to get the discounted price. But if you're a marketer, you're a psychologist, right? Because marketing, you just deal with psychology. You just do. It just is what it is, right? So apparently, like this individual who called me stupid, but if I look up the definition of the things, it literally says right there, psychologist has nothing to do with having a degree. It just means you study the mind and try to explain why people behave a certain way. But a clinical psychologist, someone who has a degree. But he called me stupid, but I look up the words. So who's stupid? It's not me, it's definitely him. But why is he like this? Why is this individual like this? Because he props up academia. He's one of these people that thinks that academia calls the shots, right? So if I say, yo, I'm not taking a jab, And somebody say, why not? Say, because I don't think that shit's good for you. Well, where's your degree? And I don't need a degree to know when something's bad for me. I don't need to know the molecular structure of dung to know I don't want to eat it, to know I shouldn't have it. It's just common sense. Some things just happen to be common sense. Some things happen to be intuitive as well. We as a species have gotten so far away from the intuition, and we've concentrated so much in intellectual mind that we lost 90% of our superpowers because we don't follow our gut, because we don't follow our intuition. Everything has to be explained. Some things just are understood without an explanation. Some things are understood without an explanation. Some things are understood and an individual can't explain it. I know some things that I just can't explain. I just know it to be true. And if you ask me to explain it, I'd be like, I don't know. I just understand it. I just understand it. Right? Just is what it is. And there's some things I can't explain. But there's a huge and massive problem with people propping up academia. Like everything needs to have a degree. Yo, these degrees don't mean a damn thing. They mean nothing, damn near. So I call myself a social scientist, right? And I looked it up before I called myself that to make sure, because that's just what I seen. He said, right, you don't need a degree when you study these sciences for years. Yeah, I fucking studied this shit. He said, Jev said, 3 generations of clinical psychologists and psychiatrists, and the mental health of the country is worse than ever. Exactly. Exactly. What up, E-Man? Yeah, it's just really odd. It's just really weird. And it's just like, what world do you live in that everything has to be propped up by academia? I've never really respected academia. And I'll tell you why. Because my family members all had degrees and they all worked for somebody else. And I was just like, what's the point of getting a degree and work for somebody else? Like, y'all went to all them years of school and you still somebody else bitch? Like, what? Like, and I'm the only one in the family who doesn't have a traditional job and hasn't had a traditional job for several years. And I don't have a degree. Maybe going to get a degree fucks your mind up. Maybe you need a compliant mindset to go get a degree. Maybe when you're a rebel, you're not designed for a degree. But when you have a compliant mindset, a degree makes sense for you because you comply, you listen to the teacher, you do everything the teacher says. Then you go from there and you do everything your boss says. And then Fauci says to do this and you comply with that too. You're just a compliant individual. You just go along with everything. This is the way we do things. And you just do that. And it's just like, does anybody ever say, well, is there another way to do things? No, go to school, get a good degree, and get a good job. What if I don't want a job? What if I want to create jobs? Can I do that? I never forget. I went to college. I didn't know what to expect. Sitting in my accounting class. I was looking at my account teacher. I saw her drive by in a disheveled vehicle. And I thought to myself, she's poor. Then she got in front of our class and started teaching. I'm like, this person's just not smart. I can just tell this person's not smart. And that's when I realized the school wasn't for me. I was like, yo, these people are idiots. You guys got idiots teaching me. I can't respect this institution. Anyway, but academia is just basically an institution of indoctrination. That's what it is. Institutions of indoctrination. It's how you, what to think and how to think, and the problem of academia as being the authority over our lives. Meanwhile, academia is working very hard to enslave us, as with MIT and Project Hamilton, the new CBDC, central bank digital coin, and Biden just issued an executive order to study on that and get that. By the way, I wrote an article on Men of Order. Russia is going to be starting their own cryptocurrency under the Serb bank, or Sber, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, SBER coin. So look out for that. Russia, after saying they would never have cryptocurrency because of the sanctions, now have cryptocurrency in the country. et cetera, whatever it do. Um, so going back to the good, I use the term social scientist. Why? Because I want to point people in a direction to kind of understand me. Right? I want to help people understand me. If I said I was a cop, that would help people understand me. Right? If I said I was a lawyer, that would help people understand me. A lot of people on Twitter put lawyer in their bio. Labels help people understand what things are. So I like labels. And what I also know is that people like labels. It helps them navigate. You know, because the way the human mind works is it wants to put things into boxes. It wants to compartmentalize things. This goes here, this is that, this is that. And anything that doesn't fit into a box, it tends to be uneasy with and uncomfortable with. Okay? Yes, academia is very pretentious. Absolutely. But it wants to compartmentalize. Mine wants to put things in boxes. This is a liberal, put that here. This is a conservative, put that here. This person is this. And then you run into a person, you're like, what is this person? Right? So then you try to like understand what this person is and you give them a label. So what I do is I help people, I say, hey, here's my label. So they can immediately just put it in a box. And then as you deal with me, you can then transfer me to a box of your own. What I don't have to worry about is you giving me some label that doesn't describe me. I've given you a label here, social scientist. Let's start there. And then you can go, oh, Hotep Jesus is this. And then people will give me some other moniker or some other label, you know, and that works as well. Right. But labels can be useful. And I think because people need labels on things, you know, for example, like if I wanted to tell people about Naval, right, I would say VC, entrepreneur, tech, right? But he doesn't like labels. But if I told somebody he was a VC and he's involved with tech, they might say, all right, let me check him out, right? But people need these labels to kind of identify what am I getting myself into. If I just said, oh, he's an interesting guy, you know, just go check him out, they got to take my word for it. But their brain won't register it because it hasn't put it into a department. It's just, oh, it's just an interesting guy. So when they get home, they're probably not going to look him up. But if I said he's a tech guy and I said he's red pill, they go, okay, red pill. I know what red pill means. This guy knows about the New World Order. Cool. He's on my side. Let me go check him out, right? So in order for me to tell somebody Naval doesn't like labels, this is one of the labels, and I understand that point. But if I want to tell somebody about Naval, I have to give them labels just for them to go check them out. It helps us. They're aids. Labels are aids. Stereotypes are great. If I see a dude walking down the street with a bald head, with a big ass Nazi tattoo on the side of his head, I'm going to think he might be Azov Battalion. The stereotype is going to save my life. Okay? If it's the middle of the summer and some dude is walking down the street and he got a trench coat on and he's wearing all black and he's got his hands in his pockets, I'm not going to go, oh, I don't like labels. I don't like stereotyping people. I'm going to walk on the same side of the sidewalk as him. You might get your ass robbed. I'm going to cross the street. I see somebody strange. I'm going to cross the street. It's not going to deal with that type of energy. I don't need to deal with that. Now here we are fighting in the middle of the street. Da 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 da. I done ripped my shirt. Right? I don't want to rip my shirt. I like my shirt. Why do I want to? I might be late for an appointment. I might have been having a good day. What if I'm rustling with him and I break my phone? Now I got to waste hours and go get a new phone. Right? Stereotypes are good. Walter Williams talks about stereotypes all the time. And Walter Williams talks about the stereotype of the tiger. He says you would stereotype a tiger. If I brought a tiger in the room, you wouldn't go, well, I'm not going to stereotype the tiger. I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this is a nice tiger. You're going to take your chances and go over there and pet the tiger? Or you're going to stay on the other side of the room and try to vacate the room? You're damn sure not going to go over there and pet because there's a stereotype in your mind that goes, tigers are dangerous. Stereotypes are good. Stereotypes are good. But we talked about the bad earlier. There's a bad. There's a good. Okay. So, excuse me. Yes, I don't know. I just want to have this conversation because, or this lecture, and talk about labels because, I've wrestled with them over, course of my life on this planet. And I was like Naval at one point where I was running from labels and now I'm running towards them and I'm like, labels are good. And, even when people use, for example, check this out, why labels are good. How you label me tells me how to label you. So if you say, oh, he's a black conservative, I immediately in my head can get a bead on how you look at the world. So even your mislabeling of me can allow me to accurately label you in my head. I can put you in a box in my head. Oh, look at him. He's a coon. Okay. I know what you are. Oh, look at him. He's a black conservative. Okay. I know what you are. Or if I say something that happens to lean left one day and somebody goes, oh, you're such a liberal. Okay, I get what you are. You're one of those. So when people throw labels on you falsely, inaccurately, you can then assess the type of individual they are by their misuse of said label. This is why labels are good. Yes, tell me what you think I am so I can know how ignorant you are. So I can know how much you haven't read. So I know how much of my content you haven't seen. Because there's some people that say all types of weird stuff about me, and I'm just like, have you watched my YouTube channel? You even like, do you? So I know. By how you label me, I know how much of my content you've consumed. Adrian C., thank you. He said, someone putting labels on you is your opportunity to show them how you are, not what they say you are. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I would also say that it is an opportunity to not show them. For example, Hillary Clinton and Trump were running for the election. It's the 2016 election, obviously. And this is older black gentleman at my gym. He used to come in, I'd see him all the time. We fist bump, talk some bro shit, keep it moving. And then he came in one day, seemed a little upset. And, I think I asked him what's wrong or something like that. And he got to venting and he said, oh, this Trump guy. So he was upset. Obviously, he was going to vote for Hillary. And I reassured him. I said, don't worry about it, man. Hillary will win. Don't even worry about it. I masked and cloaked myself. I didn't come out and say, yo, I kind of like Trump. Because it wasn't the time and space. I didn't need to. Why do I have to deconstruct the image this person has of me in their mind already? I'm never going to see this person outside of the gym, right? And if I ever do, we don't have to have that type of conversation. But if we're ever in an environment to have that type of conversation, I hope there would be a lot of room for nuance. But you don't always have to deconstruct how people think of me or how people think of you, right? So yes, it is an opportunity to show them, but it's also an opportunity to not show them. So if you say, oh, you're a black conservative, I might choose, like at this point in my life, I choose not to deconstruct the labels people give me. I just choose not to. It's just, the ROI is pretty low, right? Because I have to fight through your levels of ignorance to prove to you that I'm something different. And then what did I get out of that? other than turning somebody ignorant, less ignorant about me. But it's just like I didn't get anything out of that. I wasted my time. Technically, the ROI just is not there. So it's just like, oh, he's a black liberal or he's a black conservative. All right, yeah, cool. Because I know you need that box. You need to put me in a box, and if that's the box that you put me in, cool. But I also know you've never watched my content, so I'm able to again put you in a box. Okay, this person belongs in the box that says has not watched my YouTube. Because people that watch my YouTube know that you can't throw me in just a black conservative box. You can't throw me in a black liberal box. I'm definitely Hotep, right? And it's just too much to the nuance of the conversation. And as an autodidact, the things I know, the things I've studied, the thoughts and ideas I've entertained, some people may never come across. They just might go their whole lives and never even come close to the ideas that I've come across in my time study. And that's fine. Right? That's their life. This is my life. But again, to take my time to deconstruct their label, I've done too much studying. I've done too much work. I've done too much thinking to waste it. I don't have time to waste. The older I get, the less time I want to waste, especially on frivolous people. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, yo, I got a question about you. Okay, we can have a conversation. Are you this? Are you that? I'll entertain that. I will always entertain honest discourse when somebody really wants to learn more about something or me or whatever it is. I'll usually always entertain it. If it's coming from a place of warmness and genuine desire, then yes, I would definitely do that. Natasha, you've been drinking? So yeah. To your point, I just don't deconstruct people's opinions of me straight off the bat. People look at me and they see I'm black and they just assume certain things. And I just won't dispel it until it's to my advantage or until there's an opportunity for an ROI, because it just seems like a waste of time to me. Like, what actually changes in the grand scheme of things by changing, what box this person puts me in. Now, if this is an individual you might have a business relationship with, I definitely want them to have a clear idea about what I am and what I'm into, because we could have a long-term relationship. We're doing business. So yes, I want you to know about me, and I want you to I want you to come correct. I don't want you having the wrong idea about me. But again, I can always tell who's watched my content and who hasn't. I remember I was talking about the N word, right? So we're talking about labels, and somebody calls you the N word, right? You nigger, whatever. And I talked about how that's sort of a trigger for black people. And I posted like a 60-second clip, and I posted it to my Instagram. And this individual, black individual, was like, "You're a coon, and you're just like Candace Owens," and da 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 da. And I'm like, you got all that from the 60-second clip? Like, again, you're just somebody who hasn't watched my YouTube, right? Because if you watch my YouTube, you would know I'm very pro-black. Love black people. Love being black. So I don't respond to people, unless there's an ROI, right? Or somebody's asking a general question. On Twitter, I generally don't respond to people, mostly because I just don't have time. I post and I turn the app off, then I log in an hour later again, and there's a whole stream of people commenting, and I just can't comment to everybody. It just would take me all day. So I just don't, okay? Unless there's a specific, something just like funny, sticks out to me, okay, I'll respond, right? So what did I do to this guy? I blocked him. I just blocked him. All right. You don't like my content, then you don't have to see it. I do you a favor. You don't want to do it. You don't want to unfollow me, but you want to watch me so I can be a trigger for you. I don't want to be your trigger. I don't want to be a trigger for you, okay? that some people get on the internet and they follow people just to be triggered, right? They enjoy being miserable. And then what they do is, because they don't exactly enjoy being miserable, but misery loves company. So what they do is, because their life is miserable, they have to make other people miserable, and by making other people miserable, they're happy. And basically what that's called is displacement or replacement. And basically what they're doing is they're trying to swap emotions with you, right? So basically is they're purging their negative emotions, transferring it to you. Now you're upset and they're happy because you're upset. And then that makes them feel better, right? So people will practice this online a lot, and they'll try to agitate people, and they'll try to agitate me, and they try to agitate other prominent people. And it just doesn't work with me because, well, you're just a few lines on the screen of my phone, and I just will just turn you into a topic of conversation in one of my lectures, and you become content, and I thank you for that. But other than that, I can't validate your existence by responding to you. I just can't. Big Elvis, the Chef Rosenberg, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate you for supporting the channel and not grifting. You are the man, bro. So yeah, so labels in a negative sense are used to discredit and blur. We've seen that with the term woman, and we've seen that with the term white supremacist or racist. They use these terms to discredit people. Coon use that to discredit people. And then with the term woman, we don't know what it means anymore. Completely, the lines have been completely blurred. We don't know what that is. But again, labels can be good. Why can labels be good? They help people navigate who you are quickly, right? The faster people can get you in a box, the faster you get in their brain, the faster you get in their mind, the faster you get a home in their mind. Now, sometimes you can do the opposite and not have a label, and you'll still have a home in their mind because they're trying to figure it out, right? And there's a room for that, and there's another conversation to be with that, and I play with that too, as far as the realm of psychology, whatever. Another thing we covered is, academia, people propping up academia, like the label of I have a BS or I have a BA or I have a master's degree, these labels. And everybody who's got a master's degree or a bachelor's degree ends up calling me for advice. So I'm just like, what'd you go to college for, right? I've had people who are going for their master's degree that come to me for their homework, right? I had an individual who was getting a master's degree in health administration, and I helped this individual work through their master's program. And basically, what I did was I showed them how to work, because they had to do group projects. So I showed them how to structure and work through their group projects, make sure they got credit, and the people who weren't doing the work didn't get credit. I showed them how to navigate that, I showed them how to structure their slides, how to carry on conversation, so on and so forth. Just basic shit, like shit to me that's just very basic, coming from the business world where we have real practical experience. But again, this person going through a master's program, I don't have a college degree, but I'm helping somebody navigate their master's program. So really, they should have just gave me their degree. But again, this is what these labels do, right? So now this person is running around the world with an inflated ego because they think, oh, I have my master's degree now, I'm so cool. And it's like, no, but you're still kind of an idiot. Whatever. Not an idiot, but just in comparison to having a master's degree, it just really means nothing, right? It's just a label, right? Something that makes you earn a little bit more income, I guess. And that's pretty much all it's good for. Also, labels. Somebody throws a label on you and it's the wrong label. You don't have to deconstruct that image, that idea that they have of you in their mind. Instead, what you can do is you can construct an image of them in your mind based upon the label that they fraudulently placed upon you or mislabeled you with. What am I about to do? I'm going to write an email. My book, Dominate Twitter, is on sale. briansharp.co/Twitter. So I'm going to write an email. I'm going to extend the sale as well because they may wake up in the morning and get the email and say, wait, the sale's over. I missed it. You never told me about it. So I'm going to extend the time on the sale. If you guys want to copy, I usually charge $49 for it. Today only, it's $19. And I usually run sales like maybe once every 2 months. Most of the times I'm like, I should run a sale Monday, and I forget. And the next Monday comes, and I'm like, I should forget. And today came around, and I was like, I'm supposed to run a sale. And then hours went by, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I forgot. Let me just do it now. So I set up, and I ran a sale. So, I'm supposed to run a sale like once a month, and, hey, whatever. Sometimes I just forget. I just get so busy doing other things. I'm working on my new book. So, yeah, so BryanSharp.co, BryanSharp.co. If you want to get on my email list, I have a bunch of great offers and daily updates that come out through my email list. So I'm going to go ahead and take my sleepy ass and write that email, get that out to my email list. And then I'm probably going to watch some chess and crash. I already did my Spanish homework tonight. Did my push-ups. If you follow me on Instagram, I do my push-ups daily. But yeah, those are my 3 dailies: email list, Spanish lessons, and my push-ups. Those are my 3 dailies, and chess. But chess is sort of just in my DNA now. Just kind of addicted to it. I am
That Hotep Jesus dude.
And thank you for tuning in, y'all. Hotep.
Hotep.